Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro takes place on the main card of UFC 249, Ferguson versus Gaethje, and I raise one eyebrow at the thought of them being on the main card because, in all honesty, they don't deserve to be on the main card. They don't belong on the main card. However, I take your minds back to UFC 247 where we watched Justin Tafa versus Juan Adams on the main card. Was actually a pretty good turnout. Justin Tafa finished him in brutal fashion in the first round. Now take this into consideration. Justin Tafa got KO'd by Yorgan De Castro. Juan Adams got finished by Greg Hardy in the first round as well. At least we've got the better half of the heavyweight trash. And these guys aren't trash. So I take back what I just said about them. They're actually pretty good fighters, and that was told to me by watching Greg Hardy face off against Alexander Volkov. Volkov is a complete savage of the heavyweight division, and on short notice, Greg Hardy he did okay. He didn't get completely annihilated like a lot of people were expecting him to. He did alright, to be fair. You know, he hurt his hand in the first round. They were competitive rounds. He was never completely getting blown out the water. However, Volkov did win every round. I'll give him that. He outlanded Greg Hardy every round, but when you think about what Volkov did to Derek Lewis and what Volkov has done to Fabricio Verdum, like, that's a very good performance by Greg Hardy to go 3 rounds, avoid a lot of damage, land your own shots, make things competitive, but just get outstruck a little bit every round. I don't mind that, to be honest with you, and I liked Greg Hardy's performance. I also like Yorgan De Castro's performances because they end in clean fucking KOs in vicious fashion, as we saw at UFC 243 at Australia. Whitaker versus Adesanya on the main card, he KO'd Justin Tafa. Tafa just rushed forward, much like he did against Juan Adams, but Yorgan De Castro showed him, hey, you want to rush forward, you're going to rush forward into these fucking fists, and they're going to drop you to the canvas real fucking quick. That's what happened to Justin Tafa. Greg Hardy is not going to barrel forward like a retard. He isn't. If this was Dmitry Smolyakov versus Yorgan De Castro, I'm picking Yorgan De Castro. However, I think that Greg Hardy is just enough. He's just technical enough to get by in this fight without rushing into a big right hand or left hand, because he's got both of them, from Yorgan De Castro. I think Greg Hardy's going to do very good, and I think this is a complete 50-50 fight. And in the case of a 50-50 fight, my thought process is, I'm siding with the athlete. I'm siding with the guy who's not 5'11" at heavyweight and is actually 6'4" or 6'5". Who knows? He's one of the two of them. He's a huge fucking guy. I'm siding with the guy who's got abs. I'm siding with the guy who still looks in good shape and doesn't have a fat belly on him. That's just my thought process. If I think a fight could go either way, I'm going to look towards the athlete because he has more ways of winning. Who's going to be better in the third round? I know Greg Hardy has asthma, however, I think Greg Hardy, looking at the pair of them, Greg Hardy's going to be better in the third round, asthma pump or not. You know? Whether it be USADA verified asthma pump, who knows? Okay, that's a whole other situation. However, Greg Hardy's been 3 rounds. Again, whether it was with the assistance of an asthma pump or not, he has been 3 rounds. We've never seen Yorgan De Castro go 3 rounds. He's been 3 rounds once in his career, and he won by decision against a guy who I believe was 6-7, if I'm remembering correctly, if I look at his record real quick. Colton Little, 7-6, sorry, went to a unanimous decision at CES 54, wherever the fuck that promotion is. Either way, he's a very good fighter. I just don't think he's going to land on Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy's not going to rush in like an idiot like Justin Tafa did. I think Greg Hardy's going to come out of this one with a win. I really do. I think he's going to take Yorgan De Castro into deep waters, and I think he's going to finish him. Greg Hardy's fought some decent opponents when you take things into consideration. A lot of people talk shit. They're babying Greg Hardy. He fought Volkov in his last fight. Before that, he fought a guy who was 7-2 at the time in Ben Sassoli. Basically won. I know he had the asthma pump, but he basically fucking won that one. Sassoli had nothing for him. Juan Adams, you know, beat him as well. Juan Adams was 5-1 at the time. That's a tough opponent. A lot of people say he's being babied. Dmitry Smolyakov, I don't care how much that looked like a fixed fight. Dmitry Smolyakov is 9-2 and has had fights in the UFC. He's pretty good. Even it hurts me to say that because of the performance that we saw out of Dmitry Smolyakov, and it looked like an absolute fix if I've ever seen one in my life. However, it wasn't a fix. They're not going to risk their reputation of a sport on the neck of Greg Hardy. You know, if they're going to fix a fight, they're going to fix McGregor-Aldo. You know, if they're going to fix a fight, they're going to fix McGregor versus Khabib. Hey, Khabib, you know, why don't you stand with McGregor in the first round? We'll give you a few million. That's what they would do. They would not risk their neck of reputation as a company on Greg Hardy winning his debut. That just wouldn't happen. I don't believe it was a fix. And Dmitry Smolyakov is 9-2. Greg Hardy finished him in the first round. He's a very good fighter. He then fought Alan Crowder and only lost by throwing an illegal knee. And he was doing quite well in that fight as well. Alan Crowder had his moments, don't get me wrong. At the time, Alan Crowder was 9-3. He's fought good guys. He's going to learn a lot from his fight with Alexander Volkov, including a real good lesson, which is I belong here in the heavyweight division of the UFC, because he did very good against Alexander Volkov. I think he's going to be able to do equally good against Yorgan De Castro. Again, I'm siding with the size. He's a lot bigger than Yorgan De Castro, massive in comparison. Who's in better shape? Greg Hardy's in much better shape than Yorgan De Castro. Who has a 15cm reach advantage? Greg Hardy has the 8-inch reach advantage, 7-inch reach advantage, something like that. Doesn't bode well for Yorgan De Castro. A guy who's looking for the KO blow. It's difficult to do that without reach advantage. It really is, and especially when you're a counter striker. Yorgan De Castro, he backs up. He likes guys to come towards him. They get comfortable because they look at him. This fat guy, he's going to be slow. I'm going to land a few shots. I'm going to get back out again. And Yorgan De Castro makes him pay. They come rushing forward. They see this fat man in front of them. What's he going to do? Land the big punch. And he lands the big punch. That's what happens. Justin Tafa thought he could out-technique Yorgan De Castro. Rush forward and land a big combo on him. Yorgan De Castro showed him why you can't do that. Greg Hardy, if there's one thing I'll say about him, he doesn't overcommit to shots. If anything, he pulls back too much. But with a guy who's got such little reach in the heavyweight division in Yorgan De Castro, he can afford to pull back like that with his chin up in the air, because odds are Yorgan De Castro is not going to be able to reach his chin anyway. I think Greg Hardy's going to go out there. You've seen this before in a lot of his fights against, and I look at it here, Alan Crowder rushes forward in the first round against Smolyakov. He throws a lot of big shots when the guys are against the cage, but one thing he makes sure not to do is move his head in with his hands. He keeps his head way on the outside. He'll throw his punches. He'll pull. He's watching for things coming back his way. He's fought another fat black guy in Rasheem Jones, who I know is 1-1, but presents a very similar style. Or at least, I don't know how much we can look into this fight, to be honest with you guys. But I'm going to try my best here to find some kind of narrative I can go with. Oh, no, wait. It was Tabaris Gordon, not Rasheem Jones. A guy who was 3-0 at the time. Has he moved on to do anything with his career? Tabaris Gordon. The guy that he KO'd on the Contender Series. Fat black guy, KO power. He's had 2 cancelled bouts in 2020 and 2019. Okay, his career's fallen off a cliff. However, Greg Hardy did well against him. And this was a guy who was 3-0. And who had fought a guy who was 4-0. And had beat a guy who was 2-0 as well. And beat a guy who was 4-0. He's very good. He's a decent heavyweight. Put against Greg Hardy in the Contender Series. Greg Hardy, what he did in that fight, he noticed that Tabaris Gordon was putting his back against the cage, looking for a big counter strike. Greg Hardy attacked with a little bit of efficiency, a little bit of mindfulness. He was very cautious with the way he approached things. I like that when I'm looking into this fight. I'm not seeing a Ben Sassoli or a Justin Tafa who's rushing forward, bringing their head into the mix. Justin Tafa learned that against Juan Adams. He's really staying at the end of his punches now. However, before that, Ben Sassoli as well, against Rodrigo de Lima at UFC Auckland just not too long ago. Hooker versus Felder. Ben Sassoli rushes in with head first. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Of course you're going to get KO'd, you mong. I don't mean to call him a mong, but like, Jesus. Greg Hardy's going to win. He's too big, too powerful. He could probably choose to out-wrestle this one as well. Yorgan De Castro is very good, don't get me wrong. Don't think he's going to get the job done. I'm looking at Greg Hardy, younger, taller, longer reach, in better shape. Does he hit harder? Probably not. Has he got more room to learn? Yes. I know he's only 31, and people are going to say, dude, he's not even young anymore. Young in the game of MMA. Yes. Every guy at heavyweight's been in MMA longer than Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy may as well have picked this thing up about 3 years ago. Let me look at when he started his amateurs. He had 3 amateur fights in 2017. 3 years ago. And he is going to a decision with Alexander Volkov. How good is he going to be now that he's had 6 months or so? When did he fight Volkov? In November. Okay. About 5 months. He's had 5 months to reevaluate, to learn some more, to come back as an evolved fighter. Who knows, in 5 months he could go back in there and beat Volkov. With a full camp, he could beat Volkov as well. I'm picking Greg Hardy. I think people hate on him a little bit too much. And I think that their bias is driving them to pick Yorgan De Castro, who's a fat man with KO power. You know? I like Yorgan De Castro. If he wins this, I mean, full steam ahead with Yorgan De Castro. You know? That's what you got to do. Yorgan De Castro, 6-0, would be 7-0 if he were to win this fight. He used to have abs, believe it or not, which tells me I actually don't like that, man. I really don't like that at all. He used to have abs. So he didn't go to heavyweight just because he was a heavyweight. He just chose to be a fucking lardass. That's not choosing to change your body type. That's just lacking discipline. Interesting. I like Yorgan De Castro. I'd be happy if he won. I just think Greg Hardy's got this one in the bag. Yorgan De Castro is a very good fighter, don't get me wrong, but like, all of the attributes go towards Greg Hardy in this 50-50 fight. All of the built-in stuff that you need goes towards Greg Hardy. He's going to get the job done in the first round. Not first round. I don't know what noise I just made there either. I'll go with Greg Hardy by second round TKO. I think he's going to take the first round. He's going to bait Yorgan De Castro into throwing. Yorgan De Castro is going to immediately back up against the cage, wait for Greg Hardy to come forward and overthrow shots. That's not going to happen. Greg Hardy's going to stay patient. We're going to have a bit of a boring first round where Greg Hardy's probably going to throw a lot of leg kicks, which is something else that he was using against Volkov that looked very good. Very technical. He kept his hands up as well. He's good. Greg Hardy, I don't care what you guys say about his history. Oh, he beat up his wife. We get it. It's bad. I'm not brushing that aside, but we're not judging him on how good he is in a relationship. Because this ain't a relationship contest. This is a fight. And if anything, I take his former relationships as a little bit of fight experience. That's like one more amateur round. Who knows? I don't know. Greg Hardy's dangerous. People need to stop shitting on him for his... Well, people need to still shit on him for his past, because it's a terrible thing that he did. But people shouldn't devalue his fighting skill based on something that has nothing to do with his fight. It's like saying, John Jones drunk driving. He's a worse fighter now. You're still going to pick John Jones against Blachowicz. It's a close fight, don't get me wrong, but... Jesus, you're still going to pick John Jones. He's still John Jones. Just because he fucking drove around with a firearm in an open bottle container and was drunk and just trying to help out the homeless, according to him, because his daughter has dyslexia, of course, doesn't make him a bad fighter. Greg Hardy's good. Very good. Was impressed by his performance against Volkov. He probably beat Volkov on a full camp. Debate me that one. If he can go razor close rounds where Volkov merely outstrikes him by a percentage of strikes... How would he do on full camp? Would he land a few more? Would he be able to push the pace in the third round? He's been to decision in the UFC against top opponents. Yorgan De Castro hasn't. I'm going with Greg Hardy. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Come at me. Click that button there. I'll see you later.